So today I want to kind of share my thoughts about the Tesla Model Y. I have a 2023 model Autopilot. So I drive 70 miles each way to work. So I basically, most of it's freeway. So I use Autopilot a lot since I own the car for the past 6 weeks, and kind of want to share my thoughts and experiences in using it. So what's nice about the Autopilot, specifically the auto steer, is that when you see kind of this gray steering wheel symbol, you just can pull down on the steer gauge one time. You get to set at one time, or it can be a double pull, and that'll activate something called autopilot. And what you do is you can set how many car lengths behind the car you want. So I usually do around 5 car lengths. If it's more traffic, if it's like wide open freeway, I do 6 to give myself some cushion. Then you can set your max speed that you have, and there's to set the speed, you just can roll. There's a right button on the steering wheel that you just can roll up, and it can go increments of 5 or increments of 1. So in California, usually people drive around 80. So I'll kind of hover around 80, and so I've used it a lot. It kind of took me a while to get used to initially, because when you first get the car, you're first going on autopilot. You have to build trust with the car. So like, in some parts in Los Angeles, there's a lot of traffic, and then your car will brake suddenly. So you just have to get used to that. Like, accelerate or brake. It's a little bit sudden. And initially, when I first started autopilot, my foot would always be near the brake because I was nervous and I didn't trust the car yet. But now that I've been autopiloting on the freeway for about 6 weeks now, I've gotten more comfortable. I know the capability of the car. So kind of key is in the beginning, you will feel uneasy using it. And just keep your foot on the brake if needed as a backup, or if you're nervous, you can give yourself more of a cushion. So you can do like 6 car lengths, or it can go up to 7 car lengths behind a car, right? Um, so that's nice. Some annoying things about the autopilot is, so for example, if a car next to you brakes, your car thinks it's an emergency light and it'll automatically um, slow down and reduce the speed, right? And that's a safety mechanism, but you can override that by stepping on the accelerator or the pedal. So sometimes, like today, I was just driving and it prompted me like 5 times. Oh, there's an emergency light. Do you want to override it? I had to do it 5 times, and it was a car right next to me, and I was braking. So that's what's not nice about it. And also, sometimes, like when you're driving the freeway, you might see like a red light sign that's like on the exit. Your car can detect that, and it'll start to like brake as well. So that can be kind of annoying to me. And another feature is when you are, I think when it's like rougher road conditions. So let's say it's pouring rain. Your autopilot is actually limited in speed because of poor visibility. So for autopilot, your Tesla depends a lot on the cameras and the 360 view camera. But if it's raining hard, like it was this past week, auto steer will actually limit to 65 miles per hour, which is just the speed limit, right? So keep in mind that it will limit it. If you're driving on a one lane road, some of those freeways where it's one lane each way and there's no divider in the middle, in those situations, auto steer, it's limited to about 50 miles per hour. So that can be annoying, especially when it's like wide open. So that's something to keep in mind. And with auto steer, so the car has like a cabin camera, and it detects your eye movement, and it wants to make sure that you're paying attention, you're facing forward, you're looking at the road. And what's kind of annoying for me is, like, if I were to look over at the dashboard to, like, let's say look for a Tesla supercharger or something like that, it actually will prompt me. It'll be an alert. It'll beep, and it'll say, hey, pay attention to the road. And if you get, I think, 3 to 5 of those beeps in your driving session, and that's easy for me, right? Because I'm driving 70 miles. If you get those beeps in the driving session, it will actually kick you off of autopilot. Something will pop up saying, please take control over the wheel. And then for that rest of that entire drive, you're not allowed to do autopilot, right? You're not allowed to do autopilot for that rest of that drive. So it can be annoying if you're midway through a long drive. You cannot autopilot anymore. But a workaround is you just get off the next exit, put your car in park, and then it'll tell you, hey, you have 5 strikes, you have 4 remaining, and you can resume autopilot, right? So basically, the camera detected that you were not paying attention. Maybe you're falling asleep, and It's very conservative. So like if you look away even at your dashboard, it'll detect that. But if you wear sunglasses, it's a little bit more generous, right? Because it detects the whole sunglasses as your eyes versus your individual eyes. Your sunglasses are a lot bigger. So that is a workaround for the autopilot. But what I don't like about the suspension is that I got my first autopilot suspension, like when I first got the car, I was just testing it out. So that was strike one. And then I just got a strike yesterday because I was looking at my camera to find a supercharging station along the way. So that's my second strike. But what gets really annoying is that like it doesn't like reset after a certain number of time. Like let's just say after a month it'll reset up to 5. It just seems like I'm just accumulating 5 suspensions, and eventually I will, because I drive 70 miles each way every day. I use Autopilot a lot, and I think I'll just hit 5 and I'll get suspended for like a week or 2, and then I can't use it for a week or 2, which is annoying, and then I basically reset my 5. So I wish Tesla allowed it so that it would reset after a certain time. But so far mine, because I had this for 6 weeks now, my first suspension was like the first week I had the car, and already like I still have my second ding. Something else about Autopilot is when you're on Autopilot and auto steer, you could signal, and then the car will change lanes for you. It's nice, especially if it's empty, it'll just change for you. But what happened to me one time was my car was changing lanes, and a car that was 2 lanes over went into my lane, and then the Tesla swerved back into my lane and then went back to the other lane, the lane that I was going to change into. So the first time it happens to you, you may be shocked. So I really don't use the lane change on Autopilot unless it's really empty. If there's like a lot of cars around, it's not worth it. I usually just turn off Autopilot. So there's 3 ways to turn off Autopilot. You could just shake the steering wheel a little bit and take over it. You just can kick up the gear stock, which is what I do, or you just can press on the brakes. So those are 3 ways to turn it off. Remember, to activate it, you just pull down on the gear stock once if you set it that way, or you can do a double pull for Autopilot. Since I use Autopilot so much, I just do a one-time pull. Another thing is too, there's something called Autopilot on Navigate. So let's say I'm navigating to a destination, like let's say work. You can do Navigate on Autopilot, so it'll kind of suggest lane changes for you. Honestly, I don't use this that much. I think it's kind of annoying because I'm in a lane, and what happens is if for some reason I'm still going straight, but it's saying that I need to like go in the left 2 lanes, they'll ask you, oh hey, do you want to change over to these left 2 lanes, and you have to accept it by doing the signal, or you can deny it by just pressing down on the gear stock. So for me, I think it's annoying. And if a car is like tailgating you, it'll actually prompt you to like change to the next lane. So to me personally, I don't use the Autopilot on Navigate often, because I think it's just too annoying. Like the Autopilot auto steer is good enough for me. For the Autopilot, you could do it on like city roads, and it is aware of like the traffic signals. But one thing I noticed is that, like, let's just say you're approaching, let's say you're approaching a stoplight, it's green, and Tesla's gonna ask you like, hey, you have a stoplight in 600 feet, press the accelerator if you want to continue going, or if not, we're gonna stop. So even if it's green, if you don't pay attention and don't press the accelerator, your car's just gonna stop as if it's a red light, right? So you have to pay attention and press on it to keep going. So I don't usually use it much in the city roads, to be honest, because like there's a lot of traffic in Southern California, so it's mostly for me for freeway or the city. So yeah, I think overall I've used Autopilot for about 6,000 miles in 6 weeks. I use it every day. However, when I go on long commutes, it is very nice. One thing too is when you're on Autopilot auto steer, you have to apply pressure to the steering wheel. So what I kind of do is I don't put my hands on the steering wheel for about 90 seconds, and then it'll actually prompt you to say, hey, please apply a turning force or pressure on the steering wheel. At that point, you can just press one of the buttons, like to adjust the volume or down the volume, and it'll take away that alert, or you can slightly wiggle the steering wheel, and then it'll do that for you. So that's why I learned it's the easiest. So every 90 seconds I have to kind of put my hand or fiddle the volume with that. So it's definitely nice. Overall, as somebody who uses Autopilot a lot, it does make my driving a lot easier. I will say it does make you a little bit more lax. Like if I were to drive a non-Tesla without Autopilot, I probably would be like, wow, this requires so much effort. Because now, you could kind of like stretch your legs. You could stretch your arms. You could, kind of look around a little more than you're used to, and the car will kind of steer for you. So it is more relaxing. It's less stressful. Like, if you're really tired, um, I know it's bad. Some people do it though. It's bad, but I know some people are like using autopilot when they're um, had too much to drink, and that's not safe either. But I know some people, like you said, the car can drive pretty decently for that, so don't recommend it. But it's a lot easier to use the autopilot, the auto steer. It's gonna be hard to. I like, basically the fact that it adjusts it for me, and then if I want to pass people up, I pass people up using I usually turn off autopilot and I'll just pass everyone up, and then once I'm in a place where I'm above all the traffic, I'll autopilot again. So I'm constantly toggling on and off autopilot um, with that. So let's just say you were an autopilot, it wasn't raining, the weather's nice. Let's say you're autopiloting at 80 and all of a sudden it starts to pour rain. Just know that your car is going to limit itself to the speed limit, which is usually 65. So be aware of that. But like I said, overall, pretty good experience with the autopilot. I've been driving about 6,000 miles, 1,000 miles a week. So hopefully you found value from this video. Let me know if you have any comments or questions down below about the autopilot. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.